Chris Hemsworth was in Sydney preparing to attend a charity gala for children battling cancer. As one of the main speakers of the evening, Chris was deeply moved by this issue. His family's childhood hardships and the experience of losing loved ones to the disease had made him an empathetic person in this fight. The gala was held in an elegant ballroom. The atmosphere was full of floral fragrances and light conversation echoed. But Chris's attention was drawn to the photographs adorning the walls, each one telling the story of a child who was or had been battling cancer. One of these faces caught Chris's attention, a young boy named Ethan. Ethan was 12 years old and had a bright smile on his face, even though his hair had fallen out from chemotherapy. The caption under the photo read, "A warrior who dreams of meeting Thor." Chris winced. He felt he had to meet Ethan that night. Ethan arrived at the gala later in the evening with his mum. He was in a wheelchair, but you could see the excitement in his eyes. His mother, dressed modestly, was proud and tired at the same time. Ethan arrived wearing a Thor t-shirt. Obviously, his favorite superhero was Thor. Chris approached Ethan and knelt down to get on the same level with him. "Hey, mate, I hear you like Thor," he said with a smile. Ethan's eyes lit up. "Are you really Thor?" he whispered excitedly. "Well, I'm doing my best," Chris laughed, "but I think you're the real hero." Ethan laughed lightly, but soon broke into a violent coughing fit, a painful reminder of how fragile his condition was. Chris gently touched the boy's shoulder. "You're strong, Ethan. I can see that." In the following weeks, Chris couldn't get Ethan out of his mind. He started visiting him in the hospital and gifted Ethan some of the accessories from the Thor films. Ethan loved these gifts. His spirits were lifted for the first time in months. However, Chris learned from Ethan's mother that the boy's condition was deteriorating. The family was struggling not only with Ethan's health, but also with mounting medical bills. Ethan's father had passed away years earlier, and his mother was working multiple jobs to pay for her son's treatment. Chris felt he couldn't sit on his hands. He organized a special fundraiser with friends in Hollywood and raised enough money to cover all of Ethan's medical expenses. But the real challenge began when Ethan's doctor said he needed an experimental treatment. This treatment was not available at a local hospital and required traveling and significant costs. Moreover, success was not guaranteed. Chris personally financed all travel and treatment costs and took Ethan and his mother to a treatment center abroad. Despite his busy schedule, Chris stayed with Ethan throughout the treatment. At one point, Ethan's condition became critical, and Chris found himself pacing the hospital corridors. He had fought countless villains on screen, but none could match the desperation he felt now. One evening, Ethan's condition began to improve slightly. Chris sat at the boy's bedside and told him about the hardships of his own childhood. "You know," Chris said, "I wasn't always strong, but my mom taught me that strength is not about muscles or hammers. True strength is not giving up, even when everything seems impossible." After months of treatment, Ethan's health began to improve. Doctors said the cancer was in remission. Chris was with Ethan the day he took his first steps out of the hospital. Ethan looked at Chris, now healthier and more energized. "Does this mean I can be Thor now?" he asked. Chris laughed, his eyes filling. "You're already better than Thor, Ethan. You're a real hero." Back in Sydney, Chris invited Ethan to the premiere of the latest film. Ethan walked the red carpet in a little Thor costume Chris had made especially for him. That night, Ethan was the star of the night. Ethan's story inspired millions. Chris shared his journey in interviews, raising awareness of childhood cancer and establishing a foundation in Ethan's name to provide support to families in need. Ethan grew up to fulfill his dream and become a film director. He often credits Chris as the person who taught him to believe in himself. Years later, Chris received a short film from Ethan. It was called "The Day I Met Thor." This film was not only about their bond, but also about the power of kindness and resilience in human life. Chris realized something while watching the film. True heroism was not swinging a hammer or saving the world. Sometimes it was just being there for someone when they needed it most. And for Ethan, Chris was not just an actor, but a beacon of hope that brightened his dark days once again.